Hey guys, and welcome back to our Orioles rebuild. We're going into year number 2. Well, actually, the off season is first, but then we will enter year number 2. And so far, after the first year, our team actually did better than I expected them to. They didn't do good, they didn't do great, but they definitely did better than we expected them to. I think their record was 73-89, which is not bad for the overall worst ranked team in the major leagues. But they actually are not the worst ranked team anymore. I think they moved up a few spots to 26th. I think they're 26th. But yeah, we made a few trades last year that I feel pushed the team in the right direction, and we're going to try to keep that going into this year. They also did a lot better and played a lot better overall in the last 2 months. I think there were 5 games over 500 in that span. So, like I said, hopefully we can keep that going. And with that being said, let's jump right into the off-season negotiations for our players' contracts. So our first 2 players here who have the potential to walk away in free agency are Pedro Alvarez and Justin Wilson. We're not going to sign Pedro Alvarez. He did play very well in the minors last year, but you know, he's really not in our future at all. His age, his overall, his potential, nothing really there that's going to help us in the future. So we're going to let him walk, but we are going to offer a 2-year contract to Justin Wilson, who will be 31 this year. He's got some time left, I think, before he may start to decline. I'm not really sure about him specifically in terms of his developmental tendencies, but he pitched well last year. I know he struggled a little bit more for us after we traded for him, but you know, he's still a solid pitcher and a solid arm to have out there in the bullpen, and it just helps solidify that bullpen. So as far as all the guys who are arbitration eligible go, the only one we're not going to re-sign is Ruben Tejada, who is a little bit older. He's approaching 30. He's only a 62 C potential, so he's really not looking like he's going to be in our plans moving forward at all. So we're going to let him walk. Everybody else had a contract offered to them. I'm thinking that potentially some of them may be traded. Rickard and Orlando specifically, I'm probably going to trade one of them, more likely Rickard, mostly based on the value we may get back. He's 27 and a B overall over Orlando, who's 33 and a C overall. But yeah, everybody else aside from Tejada was offered a contract here in arbitration, and we will head over next to the re-signing screen, and we'll see who we're going to resign and who we're going to release. Alright, so we're here at the contracts page, and most of these guys, 1, were tendered contracts, and 2, were very cheap in terms of the salary that they were interested in. So it made it a lot easier to go ahead and re-sign them. These are some of the players that we drafted. Well, these are the players that we drafted in last year's draft. So we have Diaz, who's a potential closer. We have Hood, who potentially could become like a bullpen arm or a maybe 4th, probably more likely 5th starter if he does develop. Cordero, who's kind of just like first base depth because we don't have a lot of depth there. And Escalona, who's right field, who also plays first base. These 2 guys could potentially be bench pieces moving forward. Now, in terms of the players, we've offered a contract to most of these guys. One thing I noticed quickly, we got 2 Keegan Akins. Why do we have 2 Keegan Akins? We got 60 in C potential, and we have 65 in C potential. Which one is the real Keegan Akin? Please stand up so we can release the other one, but we will hold on to both of them because I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, the only guys here as starting pitching is concerned is Faulkner, who we're not going to re-sign just because he's a little bit older and he's only a C potential. And yeah, he wants, like, I figured he'd be on a minor league deal, which usually is under 100K. He's pitched in the major leagues for Texas in the past, so he does want a major league salary, which would be around 540K, I think he wants. So we're not going to resign him. Same thing goes for in the relief department for Mr. O'Rourke, Cody Carroll, and I think that's it. I think those are the only 2 we did not offer contracts to. I'm just trying to go through, see if there's anyone else. I don't think so. I think we offered contracts to everyone else. Yeah, I think we did. Alright, so I will meet you guys back in the, as we go along in the off season, in terms of any major free agent signings that we make, or any at all, actually. I'm probably going to hold off on trades until spring training, just so that we have all guys available to us. So it kind of makes trading a little bit easier, because during the off season, contracts aren't all set up on every team, so certain guys aren't going to be able to be traded for. So yeah, we're going to wait for that until spring training, and I'll let you guys know if we make any free agent signings. Alright, so we're here at the roster screen. We just got into spring training. We're going to be looking to make a few moves before the season starts. I do quickly want to go over who we signed, because we signed 3 guys. We signed Nathan Eovaldi on a 1-year deal. I may be looking to trade him later in the year. We also signed Herrera up to a 3-year deal, and I think he's going to really solidify the bullpen a little bit. He also gives us another option for the closer role if Givens does struggle. But looking back at it, Givens did really good last year. Like, better than I even thought, and I was surprised at how good he did. He only blew 4 saves. He had 37. His whip was really good, under 1. And his ERA was under 250. So, he was a solid closer last year, and if he can keep that up, I don't have a problem keeping him in that spot. And we also signed Cabrera. Now, he's not a sign for the future. He's kind of like a better option in terms of production at the time, for the time being, up the middle. We are probably going to look to trade Beckham or VR right now and move Cabrera, or keep him where he is, depending on who we trade, but we're probably also going to be trading Cabrera later on this year. Now, the problem is, I would have just picked up Cabrera and probably traded VR and moved him to second. It brings less speed to the table, but it brings more offense, I think. But at the same time, the problem is, with a lot of these players and a lot of the signings or trades that we're going to make, we really don't have a lot of space in our salary, in our budget. And the majority of these guys really aren't getting paid all that much per year. I think the highest salary per year is Eovaldi at 6.4, which is really the main reason I'm going to be looking to trade him, even if he does decently during this year. So that's going to be a challenge for me, to see if we can find deals with guys that are as good or better, but who are much cheaper. So yeah, I'm going to be looking for a few trades before the season starts, and once I find a few, we'll meet back there at the trade screen. So I found this trade between the Orioles and the Marlins for JT Realmuto for Jonathan VR and Alex Cobb. Now the problem was, I wasn't necessarily looking for a catcher, but again, with the salary, Montero his salary is 4.1. I didn't realize it was that much. I completely forgot. So I am going to be looking to trade him, but we are going to bring in the catcher that should be able to take his place here in JT Realmuto, hopefully do even better. I know sometimes he doesn't really develop that well, but we're going to take a chance here because, at least for this year, he is pretty cheap, and he might give us some value for a trade if we're looking to upgrade again next year, and also in other positions, depending on how Cisco does. And we're going to be trading over Alex Cobb, who is kind of our 6th starter right now. I was potentially, I still want to trade possibly Eovaldi. I just want to, for right now, I want him in the rotation unless I find a really good deal. And we're also going to be sending over VR, so we're going to have Cabrera move over to second, which is, in my opinion, his better position. So that's going to be that trade. If I find anything else, I'm going to be looking for maybe 1 or 2 other trades to make if possible. So if I find anything else, I will meet you guys back here at this screen. So we're here with trade number 2, which I'm a little iffy about. The salary is really throwing me off because it's so right at the top and we really aren't paying too many guys that much. So we're going to be trading Miguel Montero, Joey Rickard, and Ryan Mountcastle to the Phillies for Jesus Aguilar and Jorge Soler. Now, Rickard, his contract is a little more expensive than Soler, but Soler's contract is for the next year as well at only 2.2, and I feel like he probably will do better. He is higher rated and younger, or not. Maybe he's not younger. Let's check. No, he's not younger. Same age, but he is higher rated. So hopefully he will be a better outfielder than Rickard, as he costs less. And we're also going to be picking up Jesus Aguilar, who, in my opinion, does develop better as the years go on, at least in some of the seasons that I've played. You know what, this deal might work out for us in the long run. And Mountcastle is there just to be able to go through with the trade, because the 2-for-2 wasn't good enough in the Phillies' eyes. So that is going to be trade number 2. Hopefully this works out and Aguilar performs as well as Soler. But we will see. As I mentioned, the salary budget is really making things a little difficult for me, but we're going to work with it. We're going to see what we can do. And if I do find a third trade, I will see you guys back at the screen. Otherwise, we will be at the roster to go over it and see how it's set up for the coming year. Okay, so for trade number 3, we're going to be getting Taylor Rogers from the Astros for Jimmy Yacabonis and Carlos Santana. Now, I was going to trade Santana, a starting pitcher, Josh Rogers, and second baseman Jace Peterson to the Astros for Taylor Rogers and Brandon Drury. But Brandon Drury is already unhappy on a bench role. And he really was only going to be in a platoon or utility role for us, and he is making $1.9 mil a year. So we're going to address our middle infield need in a moment and kind of fix the problem that we had with that trade. But for right now, we are trading for Taylor Rogers, who does perform pretty nicely, and he already has last year. He's a lefty. We might have a lot of lefties in the bullpen, but that's not my main concern right now. And we're going to be sending over Carlos Santana to open up that first base spot for Aguilar, as well as a closing pitcher who really isn't much of a prospect anymore at this point, being 27, Jimmy Yacabonis, who, again, really isn't going to play any part in our team moving forward. Now, for trade number 4, we are getting rid of Jace Peterson and Josh Rogers, and we're also going to throw in Donnie Hart to make the deal able to be done. We are going to trade them to the Cardinals for Matt Bowman, who is another bullpen arm, who does not pitch that bad. He's not anything necessarily great or amazing, but he is a solid arm. He's only 27, he's an 81, he's a B potential, and we're also going to be picking up a middle infielder who can play a bench role for us, and who won't be upset about it, and who isn't making too much money, in Wilfredo Tovar, who is only making $577K a year, and he's still got 2 renewable years left, and he really doesn't have any expectation in the major leagues, so he's happy with a bench role. Now, he's 27, but his contact is really good. He could work a little bit on his fielding, but his arm is decent. And his durability is good. He's got decent plate vision. Discipline isn't too great, but, you know, it's not that bad. So I do feel like this trade is going to help us, at least in the salary side of things. So we're going to go through with this, and this should be the last trade before the season starts. And yeah, after this we'll go over the roster and how it's constructed for the start of the season, and we'll move into the season from there. Okay, so here in the roster screen, we are at the very beginning of the regular season. We haven't played a game just yet, but just to go over the roster, we sent down Wright and Yanoa to AAA. So our starting rotation is going to be Fires, Smiley, Eovaldi, Alvarez, and Bundy. Our bullpen is Bowman, Wilson, Herrera, Blyer, Phillips, and Rogers. Torres, I still think he has potential, obviously. He's only 25, He's just struggled so far. He struggled last year a little bit, and he struggled in spring training this year. So he's going to stay in the minors for right now. Dull is actually down there. Phillips had a really good spring training. I wasn't expecting him to make the team. I thought Dull was going to be there, but it actually worked the other way around. Marinas was sent down, so was Mesa for the time being, Castro, and Scott. And then we also have Gilmartin down there, who's always someone who could play a role if we ever add him to the 40-man roster. He is 28, so I'm not necessarily looking at him to play a part, but he is there as an option in terms of depth. And then we also have Givens still in the closer role, who actually had a really good spring, so hopefully that carries over into the regular season. Catching, we have Real Muto and Cisco. Suzak was sent down because Cisco just had a good spring, although I'm not going to have him starting just yet, and I'm honestly not sure if that's going to hurt him in terms of his development. But we have Real Muto at catcher starting right now, and Cisco, honestly, I don't know offensively if he's ready just yet to be a starting catcher. So I don't know if, I might send him back down. I'm not really sure if that's going to impact his development, and I definitely don't want it to if he's just going to be sitting there on the bench. So we'll kind of monitor that as we go along. First base, we have Aguilar and Cordero, who is actually someone that we drafted last year just to provide some depth. I know he's not too great, but offensively, he's decent enough. And we needed a third baseman. I don't think he plays, he doesn't play third base, but he is a backup there at first base. We have Cabrera at second, who plays third base and short as well. We have Nunez, who also plays all the infield. He's at third base. He's actually going down overall. Hopefully that turns around. Hopefully he can bounce back a little bit. And then we also have Beckham at short, as well as Tovar on the bench. In the outfield, we have Revere, Mancini, and Orlando. I was expecting Santander to be there, but quite honestly, Yastrzemski did well in a limited amount of at-bats. So did Andreoli. So it was kind of hard to decide who to go down, but Mullins actually did really well. He hit, I think, around 370. So he's up there, and Santander, who struggled a little bit, maybe have him in the minors for a little bit longer just to develop a little bit more, hopefully. But Orlando and Mullins are going to be our 4th and 5th outfielders, and Orlando most likely is going to play DH based off of his contact. And we got Revere in center, Mancini in left, and Soler in right, who had a decent spring. So yeah, that's how the roster looks at the start of this year, and we're just going to sim to the draft and see how everything goes until then. We'll update there and see who we get in the draft. Alright, so quick update. Jesus Aguilar in the mid to late May actually just sustained an injury. Broken ankle. He's going to be out 2 to 3 months. So that definitely throws a wrench in our plans here. We got to send him to the 60-day DL. We're actually doing pretty well. We're 5 games over 500, but that first base spot is completely open right now. I definitely am not okay with Cordero sliding in there. So I'm going to look for potential first baseman, whether it's in free agency or through a trade, and I will meet you guys back once I'm able to find something. Alright, so we found a trade to kind of bring in a first baseman who can just fill in that spot and hold it for Aguilar, and once Aguilar comes back, can kind of slide into that backup role. I was going to go for a trade for Jose Abreu, but then I realized, where's he going to play if I want Aguilar playing first? It's going to get a little too crowded. So we're just going to do a straight trade, 1-for-1. Lucas Duda on the Twins, and we're going to be sending Mr. Jean Carlos Encarnacion, who is a C potential, 60 overall. He's 21. He is signed, I think, to an 8-year deal. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know why he's on an 8-year deal. Maybe he is in real life, but I have no idea. All I know is that it's a decent enough trade, and it works out for the time being. Hopefully Aguilar comes back soon, and most likely, depending on how Duda does, most likely we're going to be sending Cordero back down to AAA because he's only a 62. So yeah, this will give us a little more depth at first base as well. So hopefully this works out. I did notice that our starters were struggling a bit. Bundy's doing good. Alvarez is a 5.6 ERA. Eovaldi is at 4.6. Fires is doing well, surprisingly. And Smiley's at just about 5.6 too. So we got to monitor that, see how they're doing. And yeah, hopefully they can turn it around a little bit. Because they're not bad pitchers, it's just they're all having kind of rough years, and we're still 4 or 5 games over 500 approaching the end of May. So hopefully this works out. I do really quickly just want to check on Cisco here. Not doing that well. If that continues, I might send him back down. And Real Muto is not doing too great either. Turn around, Real Muto, please. Alright, so yeah, we're going to make this trade due to for Encarnacion, and we'll come back at the trade deadline. Not the trade deadline, sorry, the draft. So for our first pick in the draft, we're going to go with Henry Aviles. He's 21, potential 80. He should be in the majors by 2021. Not sure, depending on the length of this rebuild, if he'll make it there in time, but he is a 65 overall. He's got decent overall stats, so he could develop into something pretty good. Unfortunately, his injury risk isn't low, but average isn't that bad. And I'm hoping his clutch is a little bit better than the first rounder that we got last year, just because that's going to be a big part of the closer role. And if we do slide one of them into the closer role, you prefer to have someone with some clutch there. So hopefully one of those two will work out if we ever do use them. But he's a good first pick in my opinion, so we're going to take him in our first round. Alright, for the second round, we're going to go with Roger Rolls as a third baseman. He also plays shortstop. It's going to be a little while before he gets to the major, so most likely we won't be seeing him, but we potentially could use him if we need to make a trade next year, depending on what his actual potential and overall turn out to be. But overall, he's got decent stats. I'm looking at fielding's good. The only thing is speed's a little low, but that's okay. Yeah, overall he's pretty good. Again, injury risk is average, but you know, we may not be seeing him in this rebuild, but I think he's a decent pick that we could potentially use to pick up an impact bat or arm if we need it next year. So we're going to take him second round, and we're going to head to the third round. Okay, so with our third, well actually this is the second round, sorry. We had 2 picks in the first round. Our second round choice is going to be Tommy Romero. He's a starting pitcher. His potential is 80. Apparently he's a 70 overall. His estimated arrival time is 2020, and again, decent stats all around. Injury risk again is average. He's only 18, so he could grow into a decent starter potentially, but also depending on how he actually turns out, he could make he could have some really good trade value if we need to get an arm or a bat moving forward. So we're going to take him in the second round, and next one will be round 3. So for round 3, we're going to be taking Mark McCarthy. He's a second baseman. He's 19. He's a 75 overall, supposedly, and he has an 80 potential. All around, again, pretty solid stats. His contact potentially could be really good. He's got speed. He's a potential stolen base threat. Good fielding, potentially great fielding, Gold Glove caliber. So again, injury risk is low, so that's awesome to see. And he could really turn into something good for us, or be used again as in a trade. So he's going to be our third round pick, and next up will be round 4. For round 4, we're going to be taking Dominic Guerra. He's a relief pitcher, 70 overall, 80 potential. He's only 20. Overall, pretty good stats again. Really good home run rates, potential, good walk and strikeout and hits per 9 rates as well. Arm accuracy and arm strength are 2 of his strengths. Injury risk is average, but again, that's fine. Again, potential good arm out of the bullpen. He's more likely to potentially play a role for us in the next year or 2. Usually that'll be the case, I feel, with relief pitchers. So we'll see about that. So he, out of everyone, unless they're really elite prospects, might have the best chance of breaking the squad at some point in this rebuild. But yeah, we're going to take him in the 4th round, and the next one will be round 5. So for round 5, we're going to be taking Damian Dingus. He's a right fielder. He's 19. His potential is 80. Overall is 70. And again, overall, pretty solid stats. He's also got a lot of speed, potentially a lot of power, decent contact, decent plate vision, and discipline. His fielding potentially could turn into, decent play. So again, a good pick. His injury risk, I'm not sure if I said this, is average, but that's okay. And we're going to be taking him with the 5th round pick. And for our last pick, we're going to take Sean Merced. He's a starting pitcher. His potential is 80. He's only 19. Again, decent stats all around. We'll see if they transfer and are real. His injury risk is average, which is okay. I'm trying to see if anything really stands out. His break and arm strength are pretty good. Home run rate is good. Arm accuracy. He's got potential in most of the categories here for stats. So we'll see if he turns out to be something. If not, he doesn't. But yeah, that'll conclude the draft, and I'll meet you guys back at the screen to see how we did. Alright, so not too bad. We have a few picks in here that are definitely guys that we can sign. A couple 70s in there as well. So we're definitely going to be signing Henry Aviles, who was our 1st round pick. He's a 91 potential, and right now he's a 69. So, he's not too great with the control, home runs, or clutch. He needs some work there. So that's not good to see, but he is rated A potential. He's already a 69. He is already 21, but if we don't end up using him, he could definitely come in big time in terms of trade value. So we're going to sign him. Roger Rolls, who's 21. He's a potential 71. He's only a 50. We're probably going to skip him and not let him walk, I guess. Tommy Romero is 18, starting pitcher. He's a potential 87. He's a 65, so he could come in and I'm sorry, what am I trying to say? He could play a part. Maybe not for us though. But again, he could come in handy in a trade. So we're going to sign him. Then we have Mark McCarthy, a second baseman, who's 19, potential 77. He is a 73. So he's actually he looks like he could be a good bench piece. He's got the durability. He's decent on fielding. The arm isn't too important since he does play second base. And he's got a decent amount of contact there, and discipline and vision and clutch. Wow, so he's actually pretty good. He's got a decent amount of speed too. He's overall a decent pick, even though he's only a potential 77. Definitely could be a really good bench piece. So we're going to sign him to a deal. Next we have reliever Dominic Guerra, who's 20, 79 potential. He's a 63 overall. Now, I did mention that he could possibly be the most likely to break the squad, which I don't know if I'm going to stick to at this point because he's only a 63 overall, but oh wow, his clutch is pretty low. There are a few categories here that aren't the greatest, but we are going to sign him. He's a potential 79. He may turn into something. He could be used in a trade. Right fielder Damian Dingus, he's 19. He's a 71 potential. He's only a 57 overall. I don't think we're going to be signing him. I think we're going to let him walk. And then last is a starting pitcher, Sean Merced. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. He's 19. He's an 84 potential, and he's already a 65. So we're probably going to sign him again. I'm not so much worried about the strikeouts per 9, but the home runs, the clutch, and the control are what worries me. I'd like to see that a little bit higher, especially with these strikeouts so low. So yeah, but we're gonna sign him as well. So overall, definitely better than last year. I can't complain about this. I'm not gonna say it should be better or anything. Definitely better than I expected. But yeah, I don't know if any of these guys are really gonna have much of an impact on our team in the major leagues moving forward. But we'll see. Again, like I've mentioned a lot so far, they could be very useful in trades. So that is the draft, and I will see you guys next at the trade deadline, unless there's another injury, so fingers crossed that there isn't. So we'll meet up there in a few seconds. Alright guys, so unfortunately we have another injury, and this one is to Jorge Soler, and he's going to be out for 1 to 2 months with a fractured shin. These injuries are not doing too great. So we're going to put him on the 10-day DL. We're actually pretty good in terms of our record. We're 36-30 in the middle of June. So not bad. Not bad. Not really sure where we are at in the standings, but I will check once we get to the All-Star break, or the trade deadline. But yeah, we got to try to find a unless we have someone on the roster we can bring up if they're doing good. Santander is actually improving. That's nice to see. We may just bring him up. I'm trying to see who the other guys were. Andrioli, he's not doing too hot. Yastrzemski is alright, but his potential is going down, and quite honestly, his stats are not stats. His attributes aren't as good as Santander, and Santander is definitely someone we want to see in the outfield moving forward. So I think we're gonna just go with him. Let me see if there's anyone in the free agency. I don't think so. I think we're just gonna go with Santander. Markakis, he's going down a little bit too much. Yeah, so I think we're just gonna go with Santander there. Call him up, and we'll slide him, or we'll do a platoon. Him, Orlando, or Mullins will be playing in place of Soler while he's hurt. So yeah, we're gonna do that, and I will see you guys unless there's another injury at the trade deadline. Alright, so I had a trade offer from the Tigers for Nick Castellanos. So I came over here and I edited it up a little bit. We're actually going to be getting Castellanos because I did want to trade away Revere. Now, in terms of salary, this works out nicely. Castellanos still makes less than Revere does. I actually didn't check. He's a free agent next year too, so we may part ways with them, we may not. But yeah, for right now it works out nice. Castellanos for Revere, and we're going to send over Cabrera, who, despite his 99 contact against lefties, oh wow, he picked it up. He was hitting a lot worse than that kind of around the mid-June time period. But again, he's only hitting 224. He does have a lot of homers, so that's nice to see, but you know, we could be getting someone better, having someone play better, I should say. And we're going to be getting Candelario, who is struggling this year, but as you can see, he has potential. Now, Cabrera was meant just to be like a one-year guy, so Candelario, who's a lot cheaper, who still has a lot of years of control, he is still a B potential. I know that's going down, but I think that's based off his salary and some other things. He would be closer to home since he's from New York. But yeah, I mean, overall, looking into the future, he seems like a better bet. And he does develop. It's just a matter of how quickly again. So we're going to be getting him. And then we're also going to be getting another infielder, Isaac Paredes, who isn't really that bad. And he's going up in potential and overall. He's only 20 years old. But we are going to be trading Hunter Harvey. Now, I do want to get some starting pitching help. I really do think that'll help our team out a lot. So I didn't want to use up all my prospects that we still have, but we still have a guy, Grayson Rodriguez here, who's an A potential, 65 overall, and he's 19. So Hunter Harvey is a top prospect, but quite honestly, Grayson Rodriguez is right behind him. So we still have him to deal. We still have DL Hall, Hess, Ortiz. We have a couple guys here that we can trade, a couple guys in the bullpen, and probably a couple of guys in terms of position players. So this trade we're going to make. Hopefully this works out for us. Yeah, I'll meet you guys at the trade deadline, because we probably will make another trade or two. Alright, so we're at the trade deadline, and we desperately need starting pitching, because ours is not performing very well. So I'm thinking this trade might work out in our favor. We get, what's his name? Jordan Montgomery, who's 26 B potential, 87 overall. He is another lefty, which is really nice. He's doing good. 3.05 ERA last year. He did well. I'm not sure if his stamina is 77, so he can kind of be a long relief too, but he is going to be in our rotation. Biggest thing is the 5 years that he's under contract. It's all for $1.1 million. The downside to that is if he keeps getting better, yeah, he's already unhappy with that. So that might affect him, but I'm willing to take him on right now. So, you know, hopefully he continues to do well. We are going to trade over Corbin Joseph, a starting prospect in, where is he? Grayson Rodriguez, and also a shortstop prospect in Engelb Vielma. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but yeah, that's going to be this trade, and we're still going to be looking for, it actually pushes our overall salary that we're paying on the whole team. It pushes it up, not by too much, so it's not really a big deal, and it's probably going to save, if anything, it would save money over time. So again, hopefully this works out for us. I need someone to come in and kind of give this rotation a bit of a resurgence. Bundy's doing good. Fires is still doing solid, but Smiley's not doing too bad. Eovaldi is still struggling, and Alvarez is actually on his way back to doing a little bit better. So right now the main guy is actually Eovaldi, so we might look to trade him, like I mentioned at the beginning of the year. So yeah, if we find another trade, which we probably need another hitter or something along those lines, I got to look into it a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to try to look to trade Eovaldi and maybe pick up another hitter. So when I find a trade, I'll meet you guys back at the screen. Okay guys, so this trade is going to be for John Gray on the Rockies to help solidify this rotation a little bit more. We're going to be trading away Nathan Eovaldi, who is struggling and was only on that 1-year deal and did have a salary that I wasn't really too thrilled about paying. So we're going to be trading Eovaldi to the Rockies along with Beckham, the shortstop, who is struggling this year, and also with a pitching prospect in DL Hall, who's 20 in a B potential. We're going to be getting Gray back, like I said. Hopefully he can help solidify that rotation. He's doing well this year. The only thing is, sometimes he doesn't do well, sometimes he does, so I am a little worried that this won't work out, and if it doesn't, we're kind of using up some of our prospects here, but I'm trying to get us back into that wild card game. So this could very well help us a lot in the rotation, and that does leave open the shortstop position, which I have an idea for, and someone that I think we can acquire after this. But yeah, we're going to go through with this trade and get John Gray. Hopefully it helps us out, and I'll meet you guys back at this screen with the second trade to fill in that shortstop position. Alright, so the second trade that I mentioned is going to be for Jean Segura of the Mariners, and we're going to be sending Austin Wynns, our number 4 catcher, pretty much. And I was actually going to trade Diaz, but I checked for Andreoli, and he actually slides in there nicely, and they're still interested in that trade. And let me just check who's the better. I don't know, who is the better player here? Let's see, is this? That doesn't work. So we'll go with Andreoli. So we're going to be sending over Wynns and Andreoli for Jean Segura. Segura really fills in that shortstop role. Hopefully he's able to perform as he has been, and not more 2015 or 14 on Milwaukee. But I guess we'll see as we go. And yeah, we're not really losing too much in Andreoli. We got a bunch of outfielders. I'm glad actually we could hold on to Diaz, who's a little more highly rated in the outfield there. And in terms of wins, I mean, I don't think we're losing too much. Quite honestly, Ariza is pretty close to what he is. Well, maybe not so much, but I mean, either one of these two guys, give them another year, they may be to what Wins is right now. So I think this deal will help us, and as long as this is the only deal that we make, I will see you guys at the end of the year, hopefully in a wild card spot. But if not, we'll be trying to build off of this even more in Season 3. Okay, so I didn't remember that I had 6 starters now, so I'm actually going to be trading Fires just because I feel like we can get the most from him right now. He might start to decline at any time. And also, I really don't want to get rid of any of these other guys just yet, at least. Smiley's going back up. Gray I just acquired along with Montgomery. Alvarez is kind of riding his own ship, and Bundy, of course, we're not going to trade him. So Mike Fires would be the odd man out, even though he's doing really well. He's having a really nice season. I'm kind of like not wanting to trade him, but I don't think this is the type of pitcher that we're going to be getting for the most part moving forward at all. And he was acquired last year kind of to be a stopgap in that rotation. But for him, we're going to get Brian Holiday on the Rangers, who is going to probably slide into that backup catcher role. I know Cisco's getting better, but I might want to put him back down in AAA for the time being. And, it gives us a decent backup behind Real Muto, who isn't having the best year. But Holiday, on the other hand, is doing crazy good for some reason. I've never seen this before from him. He's hitting 345. He has a 395 on base. He's got 97 hits so far. Of course, he doesn't have much power, but he's doing pretty good. His fielding isn't bad. He's still going up a lot. I mean, the contact versus lefties is up there a lot, and he's 31 years old. So we're going to make this trade. Unfortunately, we're going to part ways with Fires. Really hoping he, not that he does bad, but more so that we're not missing out on any solid pitching from him. Because I feel like he is, aside from Bundy, he is the guy who kind of held us in this in terms of the starting rotation, their impact on our team. So, yeah, we're going to make this trade, Fires for Holiday, and I will see you guys again at the end of the season. All right, so we made it to the end of the season. We finished at 77 and 85, 20 games out of the division. We also finished 7 games out of the wild card. So the season started off promising. We were 6 games over in the middle of June. Still managed to hold on to that wild card spot until right around the All-Star break. But we just could not gain that ground back in the end. Again, a better season than last year still, 77 and 85. So, hopefully we can build off that some more and do better next year. Hopefully we can make a playoff berth next year as a wild card team, because I think it's a realistic expectation that we're not winning the division here. The only problem here is that the salary cap is really making it difficult. Yeah, so we'll see how that affects me. Although we are 16th, we jumped up 10 more ranks, so that's all good news. But yeah, came really close. Well, not really close, but for most of the year we were in it. Unfortunately, we could not manage to get that wild card spot. So just quickly to go over some of the players here. Yanoa, who I guess came up in September, did not do nearly as well as last year. 7.25 ERA. He did struggle a bit in the minors this year, so I don't know how well he's going to develop. Smiley struggled a little bit more. He did get hurt. 4.36 ERA, not really what I want to see. We might have to move on from him if he doesn't start to play a little bit better. Mike Wright filled his spot. He did actually pretty good this year, 2.22 ERA. Maybe he's someone we can slide into that 5th rotation spot. I just want to see. I actually looked up WHIP the other day and to figure out what would be too high. So I found out that 1.3 is usually about average. Anything under 1 is like insanely good. And then probably around 1.45 is where you start to get to the point where they're not really too good. So I'm going to start looking at WHIP a little bit more. Alvarez, he did better, but again, he kind of went back in the wrong direction towards the end of the year. Not as good as he did last year, but he's still trending upwards in his rating. So, hopefully, same with Smiley, honestly. So, hopefully they can turn it around. If not, we may have to look to move them. John Gray, quite honestly, I'm not remember what his ERA was before we acquired him, but I do think it was lower than that. So, did not do too great there. Montgomery, he, I believe, got a little bit worse ERA-wise, but overall, not a bad year for Montgomery. Solid starter. He could definitely continue to be there in that rotation. Bundy went up a little bit towards the end of the year, but overall, he had a pretty solid year. 3.42 ERA. His whip was good, 1.14. He had 13 wins. So overall, that's the starting rotation. In the bullpen, we have Marinas, who didn't pitch, Castro, who didn't pitch, Scott pitched. He did good, 2.55 ERA in 17 innings. His whip is definitely high, but he managed to get out of those jams, whatever they were. Jose Mesa did not pitch this year. Dull did not pitch. Phillips did. I actually sent him down about around the deadline and brought up Torres, so we'll see how Torres did. Phillips, 4.15 ERA. His whip is not bad. It was better than last year's. So he's a solid bullpen arm. He's actually still improving. Blyer did not have that really shutdown season that he has tended to have so far in his career, but he did do solidly. 3.48 ERA, 1.12 whip. Taylor Rogers performed really well. I'm glad we picked him up. 2.23 ERA, and his whip was also good in 50 innings. Justin Wilson, he had a nice season, 2.92 ERA. I was worried that he wasn't going to perform as well based off of his performance after we traded for him last year, but he performed pretty solidly. Definitely a guy that we can look to lean on a little bit, hopefully, next year. Matt Bowman did well. He 2.69 ERA in 90 innings. His whip was pretty average, pretty good. Can't complain about it. Jose Torres, he came up and he did well. He's pitching the way that I expected him to. He struggled a little bit last year, but it's nice to see him turning that around. Hopefully he can continue that. Kelvin Herrera, 3.43 ERA. His whip was pretty good in 40 innings. He did have 2 saves. Now, I don't know, unless he starts to do even better than that, I might trade him and try to find a cheaper bullpen arm who's pretty good, just because he is getting paid $5.5 million a year, and we are on that tight budget. So aside from that, a pretty solid year in the bullpen. And then Givens, who is just insane, even better than last year. This is crazy. He's got a 1.55 ERA in 52 innings, 38 saves, 0.88 whip, and he blew 5 saves, but not bad at all. Really good on Givens' part. Now for the catchers, we got Holiday, who continued to play well for us. He went in the platoon role for a little while because Real Muto got hurt for a few weeks, but he hit 339, 107 hits. I don't think he played too much because I think he was at 97 hits when we got him. So, he maintained his average, but he didn't play too much for us. But still, solid guy to have there as a backup. Suzak did not play. Cisco starting a little bit more when Real Muto went down. He ended with a 2.68 average, 3.32 on base. He got a home run, almost 50 hits. So not bad. He's still improving. He's a 77 now. Real Muto, on the other hand, struggled this year a bit. He definitely improved towards the end of the year, but still, he's only hitting 249. On base isn't even at 300. Definitely not what we wanted to see from Real Muto. I was really hoping for better. I was a little cautious on whether I wanted to get him, because sometimes he does trend downwards. So if this does continue, we're probably going to look to move him. We may move him anyway. Cordero, he did better than I expected him to do, especially being a 62 and still trending down, but I don't think we're going to have him on the team past this point. Duda filled in nicely as a backup role. He had 220, 18 bombs, and 93 hits, 325 on base, so he does walk a lot. Aguilar, 92 hits, 17 homers. He's trending down, so I'm not really sure about him moving forward. I might hold on to him for a little while, but he hit 261, 340 on base, Solid year. He was hurt for a few months, so that is something to remember. Nunez, who also, he plays all the infield positions, so I did move him over to second when we got Candelario. He did well, better than last year a little bit. 24 homers, 79 RBIs, 267 average, and his on base was at 325. So he is kind of staying where he was. Maybe he'll improve a little bit more. I would assume he would. He's still only 24. But he's been a solid guy for us at third base, so definitely not looking to move him anytime soon. Candelario, he improved a little bit, hoping he can start to get it back on track next year. He hit 219, 12 homers, 321 on base. So he does walk too, a decent amount, so that's good to see. Shortstop, Sardinias, played a little bit at the end of the year, 6 for 12, hit 500. He's been doing good for us so far. A little surprised in that. But yeah, definitely not someone who I'm looking at as a bench role unless he continues to improve, which he may very well do. But right now we got Tovar, who did not do as good average-wise as I thought he might, seeing as his contact is 80 and 78. But his on-base was 319. He had 61 hits. I'm not sure about his fielding. How many errors did he have? He had 5 errors. I don't think that's too bad, but, you know, he wasn't really contributing too much with the bat this year in terms of average, which is what we expect from him. So definitely would have liked to see very clean fielding. But he is improving fielding a little bit, but, you know, he's still trending upward. Segura came over. He did solidly for us. Hit 185, 18 homers, 285 average, and 332 on base. Yeah, he's for a long-term shortstop at the moment. So hopefully he continues that, because he's a really nice guy to have at shortstop as long as he's performing. Now in the outfield we have Orlando, who is trending. He was trending down. Now he's kind of like leveled off a little bit, but he did not hit very well. He had 226, 139 hits, 12 homers, 48 RBIs. On base is terrible, 266. We probably will look to move him at the end of this year. Santander played a little bit, but I put him into the starting outfield when I forget who went down. I think it was when Soler went down. He got hurt, but I had to take him out, and he just was not performing well, as you can see. And I don't really think he played after that point. But he hit 167 in 96 at bats, which is not good at all. So yeah, we got Mancini, who had a nice year, a little bit better than last year. Actually, pretty much the same, at least average-wise. A little bit more homers, a little bit more hits, a little bit less RBIs. On base was around the same too. So he had a nice year again. I'm happy with his performance. Definitely what we're asking of him, he is doing. So we got Mullins here, who hit 200 again, not doing too great. Kind of in a backup role there when he is playing. So, you know, hopefully he starts to progress a little bit more in terms of his average. Otherwise, he might be someone we look to move as well. Now for the right field, we got Yastrzemski, who went 6 for 19, 316 average. His potential is still going down. I think it was going down last year, or at the beginning of this year. So I don't know, we'll have to watch him a little bit. He's a nice depth piece to have in the outfield there. Diaz we haven't had yet in the major leagues. I'm probably going to add him to the 40-man roster for the following year. Soler, because he is actually he's developing nicely. I'd like to see a little bit more on the offensive side, but you know, it's still coming along. He's only 22. Soler had a nice year. He was hurt for a little bit, so we got to remember that. He had a 284 average, 386 on base, 14 homers. Not bad for Soler at all. Hopefully he can build off that in the following year. And Castellanos, who I'm not really sure about if we're going to be able to retain, just because of the salary that he'll probably want, and our salary budget, of course, which is hard to handle. I don't know if he'll be back next year, but for this year he did solid for us. He hit 274, 20 homers, 129 hits, 65 RBIs. He had a 328 on base. You'd like to see that a little bit higher, but I'm not so sure looking at his stats that he is someone who you can expect to walk too much. He didn't strike out too much, but I don't know if he really played yeah, he didn't play a full season, but still he had an overall nice year. So that is the outcome of our team for the second year, and we'll just check to see, you know, who wins the World Series, and then we'll kind of jump into the off season, but that might be the next year. So yeah, actually, let's just go right into it. The Orioles have finished at 77 and 85. This was not good enough. Yeah, hopefully next year we're able to change that. In terms of any awards, we have a Gold Glove for Heimer Candelario. Nice. Alright, so that was just the only Gold Glove we got, the only award. Let's see who wins the World Series. The Dodgers have defeated the Indians in the 2019 World Series. So the Dodgers got their ring. So that's good to see. Maybe they'll back off a little bit and let a couple other teams have their shots. But yeah, okay. So that does it for year number 2. We're gonna come back, hopefully build off of this even more like we did after the first year, and hopefully make that wild card spot. So I'm gonna leave this video off here, and we'll pick up in the off season at the start of the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, any suggestions, any advice, any feedback, I'm always willing to hear, as long as it's not done in a negative manner. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. And until year 3, I will see you guys later.